Welcome back again to Daily Mail FTM. It's Sunday once again, and this week's topic is representation of transgender people in the media and of the like, etc., etc. With it being so, with the way things are going, things are definitely getting a lot better with representation and acceptance and all that kind of fun stuff. There's always room for improvement. Always, always, always room for improvement. For example, this week I know. The United States of America is legalized marriage equality in all of its states, which is amazing, really. I mean, I never thought that would ever happen, honestly, with the conflicting in the way that that country works in most cases. I never thought that would happen, so that's great. Congratulations to everybody who lives in the States. That might not be directly related to trans issues because they are different issues, for sure. There's a lot more legal issues going on with trans people than there are with gay people. That's not to discredit that as a huge step forward in the community, because we're certainly, gay people and trans people are in the same community. Really, we're all striving for the same things. But I mean, that's a huge step for gay people, for sure. We've had marriage equality since 2005, so that's a 10-year difference. I can't even remember it ever even being an issue. You know, I would have been, what, like 10 years old, 11, 12 years old, whatever. I'm not even sure how old I am anymore. So, you know, and I was at that age where it's like, you didn't really care, but now that you grow up and you realize, wow, that's really amazing. So that's awesome, because obviously there's a lot more people that live in the States, and the States is a more powerful country. But I mean, I don't remember a time in my life where I've ever, that's ever even been an issue. There's still discrimination, but the fact that people were preventing others from getting married is really sick and twisted. Trans issues in itself are really, or trans representation, not even just issues in the media. Speaking of like television and movies and music even, there's very little of it, but I mean, there's still some of it there, right? Like, I just started watching Orange is the New Black, actually, and I've known of Laverne Cox for a long time. She's been one of my role models, because she's a huge trans activist and, does a lot of things for trans women, and that's great. I love to see that, and she's, very powerful in that sense. So she's probably one of the bigger examples that you could give, but certainly not one of the only ones. Have you ever heard the band Against Me? A band who I've seen live and have, a band that I know of. I'm not exactly sure when, but their lead singer, Laura Jane Grace, came out as trans a few years ago and has been since then transitioning. And their band dropped an album called Transgender Dysphoria Blues, which is a really good album, and I do recommend you listen to it because it's very personal to her. They've been a band for a while. Like I said, I've seen them. It was years and years ago before she came out as transgender. So I saw them a while ago. But before, so it's been quite some time since I've seen them, for sure. And I had, obviously their new album hadn't come out, but since their new album came out, I don't know if they've been touring, and it's a really good album. You should listen to it. And I've heard it on the local radio, which is really cool, because I mean, like, the message sending across is fantastic, and the risks she had to take. She has a family, and I know I've heard that it wasn't very good for her. So that's a really good example of how it is for most trans people, and how it's not a wonderful experience, and not everybody has perfect, coming out. It's not easy, and there's always going to be certain people, whether it's friends, family, co-workers, anybody, who's always going to give you setbacks when you come out. And that whole album is really, really, really amazing, and I think anybody who's transgender or questioning that of any kind, or even if you're not, just to listen to the album, because it's amazing. But Jared Leto played a character in a movie that was a trans woman, and he got a lot of skeptical responses about his acting. And I think that's really disrespectful, because, he put himself out there to act as, that's his job. He's an actor. That's what they do. And to disrespect people for that is unbelievable. And that's taking a step backwards, if anything, because, yeah, it'd be cool to see some trans people, but it's acting. I don't know. That's my personal opinion on that matter, but there's lots of examples. You just have to look for it. Once you start passing and that kind of stuff, you start to see that, it's not always about identifying as trans. It's just being happy with who you are, and not worrying so much about that tying you down, because it can in some cases, and that representation in the media and all that kind of stuff is very important for trans people, because it gives them something to relate to. That'll be a wrap for this week's video, and I will see you guys next week in the long weekend for both the States and Canada. Canada Day is July 1st, and that is I believe Wednesday, and then July 4th for the States, and that's some cool holidays coming up. Just a heads up, I'm sure you already know that, but anyway, happy July 4th and July 1st for anybody who's American and Canadian, and have a good week.